welcome to SAT TV's news. I am Shanna Esprit, your presenter. In our top stories, land dispute in Portsmouth intensifies, Trinidad Media Association executive resigns, violent protests in India over school meal deaths, and in sports, 18 footballers selected for friendly match against Martinique. Details of these will follow. Welcome back. The Dominica Employment and Small Business Support Agency, in collaboration with the National Development Foundation of Dominica, held its opening ceremony of the OAS-sponsored certificate training as SBDC counselors and directors on Wednesday, July 17. The training is jointly organized by the OAS, Caribbean Export and Institute for Economic Development at the University of Texas at San Antonio and the United States of America government for the establishment of small business development centers in Dominica using the SBDC model. Executive Director of the Dominica Employment and Small Business Support Agency, Mr. Alexander Stevenson, said this will be 3 days of intensive and effective training.
4 institutions have come together and sponsored for Dominica a small business development center workshop. 29th of May 2012, they were here, in which we had a national consultation, and based on the feedback from participants then, we are here today starting a series of training programs from July to October, 3 days every month, some intense training programs that is going to force not only the Dominica Employment and Small Business Support Agency to do a better job, but also to get a number of stakeholders, strategic partners, to assist the over 20,000 plus persons out here on the island who are working in the field of small business. We would be doing particular work in terms of market research, economic impact assessment, how we broaden the successes of small businesses to help increase the tax pool for the country.
The training is aimed at helping to improve the competitiveness of the medium, small, micro enterprise sector in Dominica, especially those headed by women. The program will also facilitate MSME success to regional and international markets.
Help increase employment, help increase productivity, help increase exports to the region as well as out of the region. A particular unique feature of the Small Business Development Center model is that it is integrated with North America, Central America, as well as South America. What it will do immediately for Dominica is to provide our small business clients, both existing clients, clients that would join eventually, as well as for new prospective businesses, is an opportunity to understand the markets of the United States, of Central America and Latin America. And apart from visiting via trade shows, one would be able to have the advantage of going through the web portal that's available from the SBDC model, and also be able to get in touch with persons that may have raw materials, packaging material, markets available to want to buy their supplies from Dominica, and create that level of exchange and confidence.
Its operation is based on assisting by providing expert advice, training and monitoring programs to guide local businesses in achieving specific objectives, and is being piloted in Jamaica, Belize, Barbados and St. Lucia, and is presently in Dominica. In more news, Prime Minister Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit is of the opinion that the fuel subsidies to Trinidad and Tobago's Caribbean airline is an unfair advantage and makes it difficult for Liat to operate in the market. At the recent 34th regular meeting of CARICOM, the heads of government present made the decision to set up a committee to investigate what they agreed to be an unfair advantage.
And this is why we, the government here in Dominica, took this very bold and decisive decision to invest in Liat. To invest in Liat, if we're to try to secure, the investments that already been made in the tourism industry. You know that we're criticizing heavily for it, but we believe that it is a progressive decision. It is the right decision to invest in Liat. Because the government appreciates that if Liat stops flying into Dominica, then that would bring the economy of Dominica to a halt, because we'll not be able to leave Dominica, neither would we be able to bring in people into Dominica.
The Prime Minister noted when comparing airports in the Caribbean, even the international ones, it is clear that Liat is among its major carriers in the region.
I believe that instead of we simply criticizing Liat, we should see how we can assist in making Liat a more viable entity. And the government is invested knowing that Liat is providing a public service, and therefore the issues of large profits, you do not expect any large profit from Liat, but you look at the greater service that it provides to the economy and to our citizens in the OCS.
Liat and the Caribbean Airlines, he said, compete in the same market space, and the fuel subsidies to CAL by Trinidad undermines Liat. Therefore, the government of Trinidad should permit Liat to fuel subsidies at the same price. Mr. Skerrit noted that what they would like is a level playing field between Liat and CAL rather than an unfair advantage. In other news, an advocacy workshop was held at the Prevost Cinemal's conference room on Tuesday, July 16th, in an effort to protect the lives of women in Dominica. Women who are part of the sports group, in addition to women involved in the media field, were engaged in a cervical cancer advocacy workshop organized by the Ministry of Health. Medical Director at the Princess Margaret Hospital, Dr. Ruby Blah, revealed that the contributing agent had been identified, an acceptable method of screening had also been developed, and there were fairly clear guidelines on the management of the condition. She added that our mission should be the total eradication of cervical cancer in Dominica, as it is currently a problem that exists in our healthcare system. Dr. Paul Ricketts noted that cervical cancer continues to be one of the most significant public health issues.
Cervical cancer is not only a problem in Dominica, it is a problem globally and certainly in the region of the Americas, where you'll see that about 80,000 new cases occur annually or yearly. Of the cancers that occur in women in the region, about 15% of these cancers are cervical cancer. And in terms of the deaths, there are about 35,000 deaths yearly in the region of the Americas, Latin America and the Caribbean. And again, about 12% of all deaths from cancer is due to cancer of the cervix.
Data shows that countries in the north, including Canada and the United States, have a low rate of deaths that occur for each number of cases. For 2009 to 2018 in the current strategic plan, cancer, which is part of the group of non-communicable disease, including cervical cancer, has increased. Dr. Ricketts explained that some of the risk factors of cervical cancer are the human papilloma virus, a sexually transmitted virus, and the consumption of birth control pills.
We have seen an increase in the rate at which we're screening. There's a bit of a dip in 2011, so this is very encouraging. However, these rates need to be much higher. I think at least 3 times this rate that we're seeing now. So the message is, yes, we're screening, but we need to be screening more. More women need to be coming forward and having themselves screened for cervical cancer. In terms of the health districts, and we recognize that much of the screening takes place in districts as well. That's the St. Joseph district, Grand Bay, La Plaine, Marigot, Portsmouth, and most of the screening takes place in the Roswell district. Of course, the Roswell district covers almost 50%, half of the country. It's 45%.
Consultant gynecologist Dr. Bianca Roberts, who was present at the workshop, advised women that the main approach to prevent cervical cancer is by screening regularly. She also stated that women should ensure they keep to one sexual partner, as promiscuity increases the chances of cervical cancer. If you have more than one simultaneously, more than one in your history, your risk is increased. If you have male partners who have a lot of partners at the same time, or men who have sex with men, this is also high risk. If you start having sex early, you are also risk, she stressed.
The condom is a significant help in preventing against cervical cancer because it protects against the STIs, it prevents against sexually transmitted infection. Consistent use of the condom will reduce our risk of cancer. Of course, if you don't have the HPV, you don't have the precancerous lesions, and you don't progress onto cancer. So the condom is significant. Dr. Ricketts mentioned the increased use of emergency medicine and contraceptive. Yes. Emergency contraception suggests that the person is not planning, that they had exposure that they didn't anticipate, or that they didn't worry to use any form of barrier method, and they're using that method to prevent pregnancy. But the risk of cervical cancer is quite significant.
Women need to take extra steps in protecting themselves from cervical cancer, especially as they are the ones with a cervix, she added. In more stories. In response to residents of Portsmouth voicing their concerns as it relates to a land dispute in the Picard-Georgetown area, Prime Minister Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit says the persons who have occupied land in that area need to be reminded that squatting is illegal, so is taking land that does not belong to them. The area of land in the dispute was designated for industrial purposes. However, the section of the land that was to be provided for the residents is not where they accommodated, and some have even occupied private land in that area, he said.
The extent of the conquest is way beyond where we had intended to provide to them. Now, there is in fact a serious issue of unavailability of housing lots in Portsmouth. Not only for Portsmouth, but for the whole of the Lagon, the greater Portsmouth area. The government acquired 25 acres of land in Cotton Hill from A.P. Charles. And that was part of addressing the need for housing lots in Portsmouth. As a matter of fact, there had been 2 subdivisions already done, survey plans done by the survey department. One section with 72 lots, and another section, I believe, about 29 lots that would have been sold to the residents of Portsmouth Lagon area.
According to the Prime Minister, residents can visit the housing office in Portsmouth for application forms for residents in Portsmouth or the surrounding areas who are interested in lots at Cotton Hill, as they are more suitable to build houses. In that way, he said the government will have a better appreciation as to the number of people interested in lots. Mr. Skerrit noted Portsmouth needs to be expanded and there is no space available to do so.
And we believe that the Georgetown area is reserved for industrial, because that's where we intend to put an IT park and other things and so forth. But anybody who goes there and believe they're going to squat and build, they will not get light, they won't get water. So let us understand that this thing is for, we will address your issues. You have a legitimate concern. We respect that, but you will be allocated a lot in an organized, disciplined fashion with proper roads with access to water, access to telephone, and access to electricity in the Cotton Hill area, where the government acquired 25 acres of land.
However, Parliamentary Representative for the Portsmouth constituency, Honorable Ian Douglas, has made it clear that he is on the side of the Glanville residents who have moved into Georgetown.
If we go back in history, we know that it was Gift Industries who had owned all of the land in the Glanville and in the Picard area, and when Gift left, that particular portion of Georgetown was designated for the extension of the Glanville village, and the residents have waited patiently for years. We can go, like I said, we can go back to the 1970s, to the early 80s. Successive governments have promised the Georgetown land because they knew and understand that it was left for the extension of the Glanville village, and the residents have come to the point where we have decided that it was time to move, and it was time to take some action to emphatically state that that land belonged to the community of Glanville.
Mr. Douglas noted it was a peaceful move to an issue they have been requesting a solution to for a number of years. In other stories, in an attempt to sensitize the patrons of the Catholic community on how the funds for the repair of the church are being utilized, a press conference was held. On Wednesday, July 17th, the administration of the Roman Catholic Church as well as the construction company called Jazz Sales and Services were in attendance. His Lordship Bishop Gabriel Malzier briefly informed the public on the progress of the construction of the church.
As we know that the project began just over a year ago with the removal, the emptying of the cathedral as the first phase, and then the removal of the asbestos tiles and the roof. And of course, we have contracted Jazz Sales and Services to do the retrofitting that is being done in the cathedral.
Steve Astafan, Managing Director of Jazz Sales and Services, gave a presentation on the church's development.
What has been done so far is that we have demolished the existing timber roof frame that was remaining after the asbestos was there. There were the arches that had to be taken down, that had to be demolished. And then you had to recommence doing the foundation works in order to get these arches and the structural frame, the concrete structural frame done to support the new roof. So we did a collage of the pictures up to date, and presently we are around 75% complete in the foundation works.
Bishop Malzier gave insights to the financial aspect of the rehabilitation of the church.
The diocese has raised a total of $4.3 million towards this project, a project which is approximately $8 million. So we have just passed the halfway mark in terms of our fundraising. To date, we have spent about $2.3 million, and we have committed ourselves to $1.3 million, which is the present phase that is going on at the moment. And at the moment, we have a balance of about $69,000 to move on to the next phase.
According to the bishop, they still have a long way to go with regards to fundraising for the completion of Phase 2, which is the construction of the roof. In more news, Miami, Trinidad and Tobago Carib tribal Indian queen Catherine Hummingbird Ramirez expressed her satisfaction towards the Kalinago people for going the extra mile to preserve their natives in Dominica.
If the native people dies, Dominica will die. The reason why I say this is that the native people of this land is the one that hold the land together. They are the one that is closest to the land. They could talk to the trees, and the trees would talk back to them. They could talk to the animals, and the animals could talk back to them.
Ms. Ramirez is urging people all over the world to help the native people to preserve their culture and heritage, which she says are very important for the survival of our lands.
As I sit here, I want to say that the government of this beautiful island of Dominica, that to help the young generation of Native people, to give them education, all the education in the world, and to remember that Dominica have to compensate their people for the catastrophe that had happened in this island many moons ago.
She advised the government of Dominica to give the Kalinago people reparation fees.
This is not that they're begging for this. It's because what had happened here in Dominica, they should be recompensated for that.
In light of her ancestral beliefs, Ms. Ramirez stated that it is by no accident that she is in Dominica. The spirit led her to speak to the people of Dominica. According to the Indian Queen, Dominicans should unite with the natives to create a better Dominica. In other news, Luan Gabriel, participant at the International Association of Athletes Federation World Youth Championship in Ukraine, returned home on Tuesday, July 16th. According to the president of the Dominica Athletes Association, Mr. Cedric Harris, Luan participated in the 200 meters, and although she did not proceed to the finals, she came in fifth in 24.90 seconds.
Luan returned to Dominica yesterday from participating in the World Youth Games, IAAF World Youth Games in Ukraine. Luan, along with coach chaperone Miss Charmaine Dixon, returned to Dominica. While out in Ukraine, Luan attended a 1-week training camp, which was under the auspices of the IAAF, the Regional Center for Athletes from the NACAC region. After this, she participated. Her performance in the quarterfinals, she ran a 24.90, which put her in fifth place and was not good enough to take her to the finals in that event.
Mr. Harris noted that Luan will continue with her training to participate in another Windward sporting event, carried for some time this month in St. Vincent. He added, although more was expected, Luan is currently a fifth form student and he understands that she has to focus on her studies.
But 24.90, it's a lot of running. I mean, if she still considers the queen of Dominica with 24.90, because there's nobody else locally who have run that fast for the year, I mean, other than her. So Luan is going to come and, I guess, carry Dominica flag high in St. Vincent at the Winter Island School Games. I think the team was relying a lot on her. So she's not done yet, and I can only wish her well for the rest of the season. Although the season is coming to an end for us. But Luan has a lot of potential, and I expect a lot more from Luan this year. And I'm sure Luan will help Dominica anchor that championship this year that we have been thirsting for many years at the Winter Island School Games.
In related news, Mr. Harris informed us that Level 2 coach Shaman Mark Dixon will be leaving Dominica today, July 17th, to further her profession in Puerto Rico. Mrs. Dixon is expected to participate in an International Association of Athletes Level 3 Sprints and Hurdles certification course, which runs from 17th July to 1st August 2013. Mr. Harris supports these initiatives as he believes more female coaches are needed. He believes that the female athletes would feel more comfortable with a female chaperone.
Miss Dixon just coming back from such a competition with such exposure to coaching and viewing and interacting with other coaches at that level, this can only be benefits towards us in Dominica and our coaching, female coaching fraternity. So I wish her well. We wish her well and her on the stay in Puerto Rico, which course begins tomorrow, and she'll be there until the 1st of August, where she'll be attending that training course for sprint coaches, sprint and further coaches. So this film will be out there, scheduled today. And this is possible from the High Performance Center, the one high performance body, the RDC Training Center in Puerto Rico, and the IWF, along with the Dominican Amateur Athletic Association, supporting with the tickets.
He added, although he may receive a lot of negativity for this comment, he will continue to support and implement what he knows is right.
On Wednesday, June 17th, a 9-member jury returned with a guilty verdict in the case of Edward Al Capone Green, who was accused of murdering Damian Dorival. Dorival's headless body was discovered on Emsall Road on June 11, 2008, while his head was found in the Palm Grove River days later. During the month-long trial, it was revealed that Green shot Dorival with his rifle in his head, then beheaded him. Green had told the court that he was innocent of the crime and that he was just an old man that was unable to drive for 15 years due to a disability. In an unsworn statement on Monday, July 15th, Green told the court that if his gun was used, it was not by him, and that if he had to use his gun, he would declare it missing first, and it is possible that someone could have gone to his home, used his gun, and returned it, since his home is open to everyone. One of Green's sons, David Green, testified in court that he helped his father move the lifeless body of Dorival after the murder, as he was in fear of his own life. Another one of his sons testified that he saw his father with the gun climbing over a banister and soon after heard 2 gunshots. A total of 30 witnesses testified in court on the matter, who said they saw Green driving and running to a vehicle after the incident. The court also learned that 2 days before the murder, Green told one of his friends that Ernest Nesty and Damian Dorival was owing him rent money and said he would kill them. According to the prosecutor, Keith Scotland, Green also told another friend, Johnny Andre, to tell his friend, referring to Damian Dorival, to move out of his house or he will shoot him, cut off his head, and throw it in a rubbish skip. Scotland also told the court that Green confessed to his son after the murder, saying he shot Dorival in his head and he did not see it coming. In the post-mortem conducted by Dr. Carl Winston, it revealed that Dorival was shot twice in the head and his head cut off. One of Green's attorneys, Darius Jones, following the verdict stated, at this time they will not challenge the decision of the jury and will wait for instructions from their client to decide a way forward. Green was also represented by attorney Peter Allen. Prosecutor Keith Scotland, who came from Trinidad for this case, stated, the prosecution thinks it was a true verdict and the witnesses played a major role in this case.
Especially in light of the fact that part of the scientific evidence which went down to Barbados was lost and some of it was compromised. So if the police didn't do such a thorough investigation in the first place, we would have been severely handicapped, as we were, but we used what we had and we think that we optimized it.
What would you consider to be probably the strongest aspect of the case for the prosecution?
The truthfulness of the witnesses. Truthfulness of the witnesses.
And you also mentioned that you will not be going for the ultimate crime in this matter.
We have conferred with the learning director and the relevant officers, and we will not be asking for the death penalty in this matter.
Any reasons why?
We have looked at all the circumstances. There's still a sentencing hearing to come, so we will not want to be presumptive and preempt anything that's to come, but the procedure is at the time of the verdict, the prosecution is obliged to inform the court whether or not they'll be going for the ultimate penalty, as I understood it, and having spoken to the relevant authorities, we are not going for the ultimate penalty.
Scotland noted it was not an easy case. However, his associates, Sherma Dalrymple and Aflin Nesty, from the Director of Public Prosecution's Office, worked very hard on this case. Attorney Peter Allen, who also represented Green, stated, this murder must not be viewed as the worst killing in Dominica.
And we tend to forget the 1963 Carnival fire, where a number of persons were burned to death and a number of persons still remain with the scars on them. Now that case was never brought to court, therefore there will be no record in the courts whether there was an acquittal of anybody or whether anybody was convicted for those crimes. But I would consider those crimes the most heinous crimes that have been committed.
Allen said further comment will be made at the sentencing. Justice Bernie Stevenson Brooks, who presided over the trial, set a date of September 6, 2013 at 9 a.m. for sentencing. She also ordered a pre-sentencing report to be submitted on or before August 19, 2013, which must include a victim impact statement, a psychiatric assessment, and a medical report. Written submissions with authority must be submitted on or before August 20th, 2013. This is Larry LaRock reporting for SAT TV News.
This has been the local segment of the news. Coming up next, regional highlights.